Razorback Nation? Welcome back into Hogs on the Hill. We are back at you for episode 33, your go-to podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Join us as we dissect the victories, analyze the plays, and revel in the spirit of the Hogs. Episode 33 is brought to you by Homefield. Step into the legacy of collegiate style with Homefield's premium vintage apparel. Embrace the spirit of your alma mater or even just your favorite team with their meticulously crafted, comfortable, and stylish collections. Elevate your game day attire and celebrate the rich history of college sports. Homefield, where tradition meets comfort in every stitch. You can use promo code Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order. It is Variety Sports in all caps. We're back. We're going to talk Arkansas basketball tonight and that unfortunate loss Arkansas suffered in the home conference opener. If you're joining in and missed it, we just debuted a new intro for the show, so go check it out. But before we dive into that, we got a couple of transfer portal notes to update you guys on before we dive into kind of the main topic of the show and looking at, recapping this Ole Miss game and kind of taking a look ahead as we have Florida coming to town on Saturday. But so Arkansas landed another transfer portal commit here. Just the other day, another wide receiver, adding depth to this wide receiver room. As we've talked before, a lot of these additions now are going to be depth pieces, or guys trying to figure out, you're 2 deep, possibly 3 deep. And this guy, who knows? He didn't have a ton of action at last year, but I think it's a wide open competition for the most part. You kind of have ideas of who's going to be up there. And the guy we're talking about is the commit from Stanford, Ismail Cisse. He committed to Arkansas a few days ago. He's coming in. He was a freshman last year, has the eligibility to red shirt. So, 3 years of eligibility, potentially 4 if they exercise that red shirt. Comes in with 26 catches, 241 yards, and 2 touchdowns last season. A guy that was, not crazy recruited out of high school, 3-star guy, kind of rated around the 85 range on, the recruiting sites. He was graded overall as a 63.2 with a 63.5 in passing, 57.2 in run blocking on 381 snaps he played. Out of high school, he earned offers from Stanford, Cal, Colorado State, UNLV, USC, and others before he did decide to go to Stanford. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. So the big thing with him, not the biggest guy out there, but from what I've seen and people talking about it, is he can squat like 500 pounds as a wide receiver, which is insane. Great lower body strength, but he's going to be a guy that comes in, and I think is going to be another guy that he might compete for, say, like that 3rd, 4th wide receiver spot. I don't think he's going to come in and kind of blow you away and compete for 1, 2, a ton of playing time, because most likely that's going to be, you think, your Omega Blakes or your Courtney Crutchfields or Raylan Sharps. Those are going to be probably the 3 names that people are going to focus on going into spring ball. But he's a guy that if he comes in and can kind of pick up things pretty quickly, he can work his way up to maybe a 3-4 depth guy. Your thoughts on this commitment, adding another wide receiver to this wide receiver room?
Yeah, man, great depth piece, right? And then you got another. I wouldn't say he's short. He's kind of that mid-size guy. He could probably play a pretty good, slot position. Plus, he's young, right? When I first looked at it, I didn't realize he was a freshman this year. So, 26 catches, 241 yards. That's solid for a freshman. Stanford didn't have the best. They didn't have the best passing offense. They ran a lot. Their quarterback ran a lot. So that's honestly, it's not a bad stat line when you think about it. I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3 other receivers above him, but other than their main receiver, I'm not even gonna try his last name. Oh my gosh. You got 525 yards, 334 yards, and then Cisse with 241 yards. So that, as a true freshman, solid, very solid. And I feel like he kind of has the skill set that Bobby Petrino likes too. kind of a quicker guy, good routes and stuff like like that. But for this year, for this next year, most likely just kind of too deep, maybe scout team guy. I don't see him getting a whole lot of playing time with who they have coming in this year versus what they also have coming back. So, but yeah, I think it's solid. I don't think it's. I'm not mad about it. I'm not super excited about it, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to fill out the roster, have some guys that can fill those depth pieces. And, he might be a guy that, a lot of those, second, third string wide receiver guys, will, come in and play on some special teams. You need guys that'll fill in and play on some special teams as well while they're trying to work maybe their way up the depth chart or whatever it may be. So he's a guy that, come in, probably don't expect to see a lot. You may see him in those games early on in the season where, if Arkansas, I say this with a big parentheses around, if Arkansas is up big in some of those early games, you might see them get some action, in that second half or whatever it may be. But other than that, like we said, a depth guy. That's what most of these commitments later on you're getting are going to be. Another commit that, or a guy, not a commit, but a guy to potentially be on the lookout for. Arkansas is reportedly supposed to be done in the transfer portal, but one guy to keep an eye on is you've got a tight end out of Montana State. They just finished the FCS championship game that has announced he is entering the transfer portal. And Bobby's home state's Montana. He's a guy that was a big piece for Montana this past season. Rohan Jones, he's a tight end. We talked about how we needed to probably add at least one, maybe two more of those guys. Well, he's a junior, 6'3", 235. This past season for Montana State, 30 receptions for 470 yards and 9 touchdowns, averaging 15.7 yards a catch. So, he's a guy that can come in, can give you some blocks, but also, guys, that's what they're looking for. Some of these smaller guys that, we talked about earlier, they're taking that gamble approach and trying to bring in more quantity than necessarily, I don't want to say quality, but they're trying to bring in quantity to see if they can kind of hit some hidden gems here. In that national championship game for the FCS level, he had 3 catches, 19 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Right, and let's be clear about this. The teams that go to the FCS national championship are very good teams. Like you think of like Sam Houston, and I'm trying to think of another one that pops up, like James Madison. Those teams that just in the last 5-10 years that jumped up, they're doing well in Division I right now, and they've only had a few years of recruiting. So, like North Dakota State, South Dakota State, those teams are really, really good. Who someone in the SEC played one of those big teams at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure who it was. Was it?
Well,
Auburn?
I know Oklahoma State played South
Oklahoma
Dakota
State. Yes, right. And I mean, to be honest, for 3 quarters, South Carolina State gave them a little bit of a run, right? And they were a powerhouse in the FCS. So there's a stigma, I guess. You're like, oh, it's just a guy from the FCS. But obviously we know that that's not necessarily the case, because Andrew Armstrong, I always forget his name, dude that played defensive tackle. Why do I always forget his name? John Ridgway.
Yeah, John Ridgway. I mean,
but
Tesla
whenever we're
even
talking
came from Division 3.
Division 2, yeah.
Yeah, Division 2, yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, with these ones, with the teams that actually get to go to the national championship at the FCS level, those are ones that you can kind of be a little bit excited about. If he's a good player, you can be a little bit excited about it. Don't be like, oh, we have to wait and see. Be like, okay, that's not a bad get. Let me preface that. You still have to wait and see. We don't know, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if he cracked the 2D, right?
Yeah, and he's a guy too. You look at it, in that thinking about that gamble approach. You're giving him an opportunity to come to play in the SEC. You're probably not have to pay. You're not probably going to have to give him a ton of NIL because he's wanting an opportunity.
Yeah.
He comes in, turns out he can perform at the SEC level, and you got to steal with not having to pay him a ton of NIL. But kind of on the flip side of that, if you're not paying him a ton of NIL and he doesn't pan out, it's not the worst thing in the world. And he's a guy that you can run out there and block somebody with, kind of thing. So it's one of those things where like Austin said, it's a wait and see approach. I don't know if he did put out on his Twitter account that he did get an Arkansas offer. So we have been in contact. We have offered him. Don't know if there's necessarily plans for him to come on a visit, but we just have Jaden Platt from Texas A&M that came over so far. So you'd like to add at least one more in the transfer portal. That way you can have some depth in that wide receiver room other than, the incoming freshmen that you have as well. So I think after this, I would expect not to hear much more in the transfer portal other than maybe if you are in contact with anybody that transfers from these teams still left playing right now. That would be the only thing is if you have a real shot at a guy that maybe started for or played significant minutes for one of these other teams that are competing right now, that they're waiting till after, they get beat out or whatever it may be. But you're probably going to use a few spots for that spring window. And plus you'll probably have some spots open up when guys go through and see they're not as high on the depth chart as they want to be, and they decide they want to leave as well. So we'll have to see, play it by ear. It's hard you don't want to turn down any opportunities for guys that just because you're holding some spots. If a great opportunity, great player comes along, then you want to be able to go after that and, take your chance at it. So we'll keep you guys up to date as we hear more from the transfer portal. Not a ton going on right now as kind of the things have closed up for other than, those players that entered after their teams got beat out of the college football playoffs. So kind of quiet on that front until, we get closer to spring ball starting up. With that, we'll jump over into recapping Arkansas's loss against Ole Miss. This was a game we were talking about where, we really didn't think Arkansas would necessarily have as much trouble as they did. At one point, very early in the game, similar to that Tennessee game, Arkansas got off to a hot start and, went up, 10, 12 points early in that game. And then before you knew it, Ole Miss had, just fought right back into this game and ultimately end up winning by 7. But it's frustrating. A team that, they were ranked 23rd, but not saying that they're overhyped, but they're a very beatable ranked team. And, you needed to get this home win. You need to be able to win those home conference games. I talked about it, on Sunday, and we've stressed how much is you can't afford to drop those home SEC games. And, this one hurt a little bit. You heard Cal after the game in his press conference say he's not discouraged because he still thinks this team can get there, but he was disappointed. Your initial thoughts on this lost Ole Miss at home as Arkansas opened SEC play at home?
Yeah, so that is very strange that Arkansas is like they started out this season playing bad in the first half and then coming back and doing well in the second half. And now in the last 2 games, it feels like they put everything they have into the first 10 minutes, and then they just can't play anymore. They're tired. They look worn out. And the whole thing about having 9 players, sure that the rotation for most teams is around 8 to 9 players, right? Especially for Cal's teams. But here, if you look at the minutes played, at least 2 players had less than 10 minutes. Big Z had 4 minutes. Richmond had 7. And then like Jonas Adu had
17.
17 minutes. Carter Knox had 18 minutes. And then you have DJ Wagner and Bogey Flan with 39 and 37 minutes. Those are your point guards, right? So at the same time, I don't know how you can take Boogie off very much because he just kind of runs the offense really well. But at the same time, it feels like he's doing a lot and he's getting overly tired. And whenever he gets tired, especially as a freshman, he's making bad mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get into these sets and they just don't have energy to run them. And then they'll break down. And then with 2 seconds left on the shot clock, they put up a 3-point desperation shot and they miss like 70% of them. So if not more than that, it's not winning. It's not working. And another thing that I don't understand quite is Jonas Adu, although he has only had 17 minutes, he had 2 points, but he had 0 field goal attempts. That can't happen, right? One of the reasons why we brought him in is because his ability to be physical, to play in the post and score, right? Trevin Brazile, he had 1 shot. He made it. Both of those guys have 50% or more average on the year. Why are we not putting the ball to them in the paint? It just doesn't make any sense. And sure, Dia had a good game yesterday, but he wasn't overly physical like Tennessee's bigs were.
Yeah.
You know, like I would say Tennessee's bigs were probably better than ours, right? But I wouldn't say that about Ole Miss. And we had a worse performance against Ole Miss down low than we did with Tennessee. So it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we're taking so many mid-range shots, why we're taking so many deep shots whenever you have 2 of probably the best guys around the rim sitting right there in front of you. And then you have
you look at it
Visage,
last season, Adu is an all SEC player. Yeah, it was at Tennessee, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't change the player. You kind of wonder, it makes you wonder with him, does he still have a little bit of nagging recovery that he's trying to do? Because, so far in these first 2 games in SEC play, it seems like he's just out there. He's getting, out physical, shoved around in the paint. Not like the Adu we saw. He's not the Adu that we saw last year play for Tennessee. And honestly, when he played Arkansas last year, killed us in the paint last year.
Yeah.
You're not seeing that player. And then Trevor Brazile, coach talks about how, he keeps trying to get more out of him. And, he'll have games where he comes out and looks stellar. And then there's games where he comes out like this and, plays 21 minutes, but has 3 points, made his only field goal, one of his free throws. So it's like you need more consistent play from him. And it's like Big Pen saying here, we have maybe 1 or 2 guys trying to rebound because we have guys out on the 3-point line. You've got to have guys crashing the board. I mean, we saw early in the season, guys like Boogie and DJ crashing the boards. I mean, you look at Boogie, he did have 6 rebounds in the game. So your guards are out rebounding your bigs. That's not what you want. You had DJ with 2 rebounds. Adu led everybody with 9. You had Brazile with 7, but when
Thero led everybody with 9.
Yeah, Thero. Yeah.
And then Trevor Brazile had 7.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he wasn't doing well on the defensive end, at least. He had 7 rebounds and a block shot, and I don't think he had any blow-bys, And the thing is, with Trevor Brazile, we can say he needs to play better as much as we do, but I don't think they gave him enough chances yesterday on Tuesday. Yeah, I didn't see him with the ball down low hardly at all.
Yeah, it seems like you were saying earlier, the scheme of this offense, it's like Cal said, he's still trying to stress this team, but you've got to go down and you can't just, take those mid-range or pass around until you maybe get an open shot at a 3. When you have a guy like Jonas Adu or Trevor Brazile, work it down the paint. Now, yeah, I get trying to maybe get a guy like Thero the ball where he can take it and maybe drive for that mid-range, which he's good at, or even, attack the basket where, we saw him have a few big dunks last night, but I mean, feed a guy like Jonas Adu, feed a guy like Trevor Brazil, and let him work down low. And then those outside shots and those mid-range shots will start coming more easily instead of trying to force these shots. I mean, it was, at the game the other night, I was sitting there watching it late in the game when, the game was only within reach with, 3-4 minutes left to play. The game, we were right there in reach of, getting close to tying it. And we just dribbled down the floor and everybody would just stand there and we'd pass around the perimeter. It seemed like there's no sense of urgency. These guys were just, coming down the court and, trying to pass around and find an open shot instead of, attacking the basket, see if you can get a guy open. And, like you said, it seems like they go hard, in the first half, at least these first two SEC games. And then, you're gassed at the end, towards the end of the game. And then you're kind of just, I don't want to say lazy, but, coming down with no sense of urgency towards the end of the game when you were within reach. I mean, we lost by 7. I mean, that could have easily been a lot closer or even, potentially winning by 1 or 2.
Yeah. And I don't get it. I feel like they have the athletes to blow by some of these dudes. And the thing is, and I also don't feel like they use screens that well. If that makes sense, that like their screen offense isn't good. Tell you what, they're probably one of the worst teams in the country at defending pick and rolls and pick and pops. Like it does not make sense. I feel like
these guys
Arkansas's bigs. Yeah, I feel like our bigs overhelp. It's like, and you know what? You have other guys that are there who could help too. It's not like it's just that one person. But I just don't understand. Maybe it's not because they're not helping necessarily. It's just the guard that's coming up behind is like lagging, and they're not getting to their man quick enough to be able to defend him. I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any sense. And the thing is, this is an Arkansas thing. It might just be Bud Walton's curse. Who knows? Because that's the way it's been for years. I don't know why Arkansas can't defend pick and rolls and pick and pops. Like it's the oldest play in basketball playbook, right? Or one of the biggest plays in basketball's playbook, and it just doesn't make sense to me why Arkansas can't defend it.
Yeah, let me ask you this: do you think any of these issues could be related to still trying to establish and get that chemistry? Or, should that be something that for the most part should be developed, when you're, this many games into the season? Or do you think that could still be some of it? Guys are still figuring the best ways to play off each other.
I think they know how to play off each other. It's just, I don't think they have one like an alpha leader, if that makes sense. There's not one guy who wants to take over the game. I feel like Boogie feels like he has to do it sometimes.
And you've seen Thero be that guy at times, kind of as far as being the one that can score anyway, but not necessarily, like you said, true alpha, like when you need him. Because
it's not even, I'm talking about more like an attitude, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like there's a guy on this team that wants to take over every single time, and at a point, you still you don't want to play hero ball, right? You don't want one guy trying to go ISO every single time you go on an offensive set. So, but it's kind of like, I mean, you look at every team in the NBA, they have one. You got LeBron over there. You got what's his name, Luka, and then you have why can't I think of his name? Big guy at from Milwaukee.
Oh, Giannis.
Like you have all these guys who have these big personalities, these big, like give me the ball, let me do it kind of thing. But they're also like there's a balance to where they also play. Like LeBron James is probably one of the best passers in the country. Like he does really well with assists. Or in the NBA. I mean, but he's also that guy who is, the guy. And I don't think Arkansas has that necessarily. So I don't know. And whenever things go to crap, you got to have someone like that to lead you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, somebody that can kind of right the ship, if you will, like kind of steady the game, and like if you're reeling, kind of be like, "Hey guys, we get that bucket that kind of maybe stops a run or can shift momentum or things like that." And it seems like right now, like you said, there's not that guy. Like you see guys maybe show flashes at times, but then other times, It's like last night, your leading scorer was Thero, 17 points on 7 of 12 from the field, 3 of 5 from the line. He had nine rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 2 steals for Arkansas in 28 minutes, and he was one of 2 guys that had a positive plus or minus rating for this game, and that was only at 2. So barely there. Your second leading scorer, Nelly Davis, we'll hit on here. He scored 15 points last night, 4 of 9 from the field, 3 of 7 from deep, 4 of 4 from the line, had 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He's a guy that first half, that was kind of the Nelly Davis you were expecting to see, that had that fantastic season at FAU the previous couple of years. That's the Nelly Davis that everybody was expecting to come in. Went cold a little bit in the second half, but makes all his free throws, hits 3 threes. Maybe this is him kind of getting into rhythm. It seems like he hadn't established that all year. If he can come in and give you 12 to 15 points a game, that's what you need. But you also have these other guys that, you can't have Jonas Adu scoring 2 points. You can't have Brazil scoring 3 points. You've got to have those guys scoring, 10, 12 points as well. But Nelly Davis, your second leading scorer, and then, Boogie Fland at 14, he kind of consistently gives you about 14, 16 points a night on, played 37 minutes, shot 5 of 20, took 20 shots in the game, 7 more than DJ Wagner, who had 13. So he was doing a lot of shooting in this game. He was 1 of 8 from deep. We were talking about it before we jumped on here. He seemed to like almost have that mentality you're talking about, like hero ball, and like late in the game, he was taking a lot of step back threes, trying to throw up some shots to try to get something going for Arkansas. He was 3 of 5 from the line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Those assist numbers are still great. He's giving you 6 or 14 and 5. I'll take it. But those late game, shots where he's just step back threes, things like that. That didn't really help last night. He was a -8 on that plus or minus rating. But those were your 3 top guys right there. DJ Wagner, 11 points, 4 of 13 from the field. Missed all of his 3 attempts, 0 of 5. Hit all of his free throws, 3 of 3. 2 rebounds. So, you have guys like DJ Wagner and Boogie that seem to be, for the most part, being consistent and doing what they normally do. It's your other guys like Jonas Adu, Carter Knott's had 4 points. He's been getting the start lately over Nelly Davis, probably due to some injury issues, but probably just because he's playing better as well. Billy Richmond, it's like Coach said last night, you can't have guys when you're playing a rotation like we are, about 8 to 9 guys. You can't have guys like that play like Billy Richmond or, Big Z. Big Z played 4 minutes. He was hurt, but Coach mentioned you can't have guys come in and really give you a goose egg and not really help you. Richmond played 7 minutes, no stats other than 1 assist, 2 fouls, and 1 turnover. So, he's a guy that we've seen flashes of potential from where he can come in and, give you 7, 8 points, which, that could have been a difference in the game last night. We lost by 7. If he gives you, 6 to 8, you're right there back in this game.
See, the thing is, like, if you're going to come in and have a stat line like this, play great defense, right? If you're going to come in and give some people some rest, go in there and play like, Devo Davis did on defense. Go in there and play just lights out, stay on your dude, be a nuisance. I don't care if you get 4 fouls and, 17 minutes of play or whatever, just get in there and be a menace. And it just, I didn't see that from him, but he only had 7 minutes, so you can't really tell that. But the thing is, like, even if he's not doing well on the offensive side, you still got to take some of those guards out and give them a breather, right? Because the mental side of it is affected by, your stamina. You get tired, you start making stupid decisions. And I feel like that's what they do. They get really, really high for 10 minutes and then they just, or actually, well, you know what, kind of tired, and then they start making stupid decisions. And it just snowballs from there. Like,
Right. It's like
I was talking about you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you think about it like you said, you get tired, those crisp passes become a little bit lazier passes that could result in those getting, tipped, thrown away, things like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that, especially going into the second half. And you think, they have 15 minutes to sit down and chill out for a minute, and you think they'd come back in the second half and be on fire, but they just haven't. They've been just as tired. And who knows? You know what? The thing is, I'm not even trying to make this excuse, okay? I'm just saying this could be part of it. I know right now I am really freaking tired because I've been, sick here and there for the last 2 weeks, right? Barely getting sleep, just, I really, like, I don't feel bad, but I'm just tired. And it might be like that for them. And I know, like, what's his name? Dero was out with the cold
around Michigan game.
Yeah. So you know what? Maybe that's going around a little bit or some other kind of, it's cold, everybody's getting a little sick. Maybe that's what it is. And then you add that on top of, having to play 39 minutes a game. You could see them getting a little tired like that. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm not trying to do all that, but I'm just saying, I don't understand why you only let Richmond and Big Z, which Big Z had an injury, right? Or he was nursing an injury.
Cal said he asked him at halftime if he needed him in the second half to give some of these guys a breather, could he? And he said he'd try to give it a go. And I mean, that's why you saw he only played 4 minutes in this game. So I think he might have aggravated an ankle injury that he had suffered a few weeks back.
Yeah, but I don't think we can afford having any of these guys, unless they're hurt or whatever, play less than double-digit minutes, right? I don't see how we can do that because we don't have guys that can come in for them instead and see what they can do. We got to have those bodies just to give other people rest. So, and it's hard to take Boogie out because he's electric whenever he's on,
He's your floor general, he kind of is the cog that makes this offense run, at least when you see it running at its best. He's in the game, whether he's driving and dishing, whatever it may be. So yeah, I can see what you're saying there. The consistency there with DJ and Boogie, at least with DJ too, he played 2 minutes more than Boogie did, but he's a guy, if you can alternate those guys too, it's like at least have one of them on the floor where you have some experience and talent on the floor. Like if you ran a lineup of you sub Boogie out, and say you put Richmond in and you have DJ run the offense then, and then maybe you sub DJ out for Boogie, and then, that way. And I think it's going to be where guys like Billy Richmond and Carter Knox, they're just going to have to step up. They've been showing flashes, and maybe that's part of it is they're going through that growth, if you will, from high school basketball to playing college ball, and that only happens by giving them minutes. I mean, you see Carter Knox has been improving. He played 18 minutes, and it seems like he's looking better and better and more comfortable the more minutes he's gotten. I think you've got to start doing the same with Billy Richmond to help this depth, because he plays 7 minutes, and that's not a 7 minutes straight. That's probably a couple here, maybe 3 there. And so where you can be able to maybe throw him on the floor for 10 minutes or something like this. Wayne here says the team is playing timid and passive, afraid to make a mistake. I I can see that. I mean, especially when you look at the team in the paint, very passive. They're like we were talking about earlier. They're not feeding the paint, and I think that's that's something we talked about after the Tennessee game. Guys like Jonas Adu and Trevor Brazil, I think you've got to start playing inside out basketball. I mean, that's the basic, that's how shots on the outside are going to open up, because if they know, like last night in Tennessee, we hardly played with points in the paint as far as putting it in. Sure, we may have scored, 28 points in the paint, but that's because we drived and got the shot in the paint, not because we come down, throw it to Adu in the paint, and he, backs a guy down and puts up the shot and scores. And I mean, that's what's going to open up those outside shots that we were trying to force last night. If you can, work inside out, then, that would open up a lot more for this team.
Yeah, I don't know about scared to make mistakes necessarily. I just think that they feel like they have to do it themselves, if that makes sense. I don't see timid. I see tired, and I see maybe just some not great IQ plays.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're trying to be a little bit too NBA, if that makes sense.
Flashy.
Like, yeah, flashy, catch and shoot from the three, stuff like that. And they don't need to be. There needs to be a lot more drive and try to open up those lanes, try to open up guys who are outside. And they just, I just don't feel like they do it. I don't see the timid part. Are afraid to make mistakes necessarily, but they are timid in I guess physicality wise, if that makes sense. I feel like that's more or less where they are quote unquote timid. I don't know, if I just don't feel like they do well with physicality, and it's weird because I feel like with Jonas Adu in Brazil, you should. I understand Visic because the dude wasn't one of right. And I mean, Theo, I don't think that dude will go in there if, there's 5 Marines with machine guns in there. He's still going to try and make a bucket. I don't think that dude's afraid of anything. But the other guy, it's the actual bigs. I don't know. They don't play what I think, what the attitude that I think bigs should play with. If that makes sense.
And especially if you think Big Z too, because being a stretch guy, but even you saw when early in the season when we didn't have Adu and he was kind of forced into that role of kind of trying to play down low, he didn't necessarily, like, if other teams try to body him up and be physical, you really saw him kind of kick it back out. If he couldn't get like a big had the advantage enough to do like a hook shot or get something like that. I can see what you're saying there. Razorback Hobbs here says too much standing around offense. We get so stagnant we can't get in the paint other than Theo. And then when we do get in the paint, we go to the free throw line and can't make free throws. That's another point that is killing the team this year is free throws. We finished the game at 70%, but going into halftime, it was bad. You made some free throws late in the game. You finished 17 of 24, missing 7. Just run down the line real quick. Boogie was 3 out of 5. Theo was 3 out of 5. Adu was 2 of 3. Carter Knox 1 of 2. DJ Wagner 3 of 3. Nelly Davis 4 of 4. And Brazil 1 of 2.
Yeah, she's not very good. And like you said, they were 3 of 7 in the first half. Second half, 14 of 17. So definitely much better. What I keep saying this, but I think I really like to see Nelly Davis run the offense for a few sets. Like at least once a game, just have him 2 or 3 minutes where he is the point. Like he's the one running the offense. Or at least he's the one who is the guy, right? Not necessarily, but he's the guy that the play is made for.
Yeah, designed around.
And I feel like they do that, but I don't feel like they do it enough. And I feel like he just plays better with the ball in his hand anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, his stat line, if he did this every night, I would be great. But the thing is that it was great in the first half. The second half, he just died. He was nowhere to be found. 0-4 from deep, and it just that's frustrating. So he could have just taken over the game. He could have, if he would have had the same exact stat line, nearly 30 points. If not over 30 points. So that's the guy you need. Even if he did this, though, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I hope this, is giving him confidence to where he can maybe be more consistently put up, 12, 15 points a night, because that's what you're going to need out of a guy like him, because, you're consistently seeing Boogie put up about that 14 to 16 mark consistently. Wagner's consistently gives you about 10, give or take. You've got to have these other guys other than Nelly. Like we said, if we can get Nelly going, guys like Carter Knox and Jonas Adu giving you more, they're going to have to. I mean, if you want to have success this year in SEC play, you're going to have games where Jonas Adu is scoring 10, 12 points and, getting guys in foul trouble. We did foul out one guy last night for Ole Miss, and, you had Dia in foul trouble. And if you think about it, if you maybe would have fed the paint a little bit more, you could have gotten him out of the game sooner, or even, right there towards the end where he didn't have a chance to affect the game right there at the end.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that strategic stuff. And, especially at the end of the game, you got guys who are wanting to hit the three because, 3 is the equalizer, and it just helps you get to that tie that you want to get to quicker. The thing is, if you go up there and you make a bucket and you get fouled and you make the free throw, that's 3 points.
Yeah.
Right? That's an old-fashioned 3.
Flashy like we talked about, but
right.
It gets the job done. You're still getting 3 points.
It's not as easy, and it's not necessarily as efficient, and it's not doesn't mean it'll happen. The thing is, if you go up there and they don't try to foul you, easy bucket. They go up there and they try to foul you, you have like a 50-50 shot of making it, and then, go from there. So, and then if you don't make it, make your free throws. It's not that big of a deal. Now, the thing is, we keep talking about offense, but the fact is that this team thrives on transition offense, right? And that comes from defense. And if they're not playing defense well, at least the type of defense that we've seen all season, they're not going to do well. And if you look at the stats, 6 points off of turnovers. That's crazy. Like, I don't think they've had a game all season where they've had points. Right. Well, here's the thing. Ole Miss is also one of the best teams in the country at taking care of the ball. They only give up like 9 turnovers a game. So but the thing is, Arkansas has like 8 steals a game. That's not even counting the turnovers that are forced or unforced, whatever. The steals, they have around 8 steals. Arkansas had 2 yesterday. And that's an effort thing to me. Like, I don't care how good you are at taking care of the ball. If a team that is one of the best in the country at stealing the ball only has 2, it's because that team was not playing up to par, in my opinion. So, yeah, and fast break points, they only had 4. Like, that's where Arkansas makes their money, is fast breaks and points off of turnovers, and they didn't do it. And the thing is, like, one of the other things they do well are they need to do. I feel like if they did this on top of those other things, offensive rebounds and second chance points. They had 15 second chance points, which is 8 more than Ole Miss did. So, like, they were winning in a lot of categories. They just weren't winning on the scoreboard. And I think a lot of it has to do with their defensive effort and not being able to get those steals, not being able to turn over Ole Miss as much, and not being able to do what they do well and use their athleticism.
Yeah, I can see that. It's frustrating. Arkansas, you don't want to see them start 0-2 in conference play. That's not what you want, especially losing your first home game. Like it's the importance of these home games is big, especially the quote unquote more winnable ones like this Ole Miss team compared to what we've got coming up Saturday. So that's why this it hurts that we lost this game. I mean, you really needed it, and with coach saying he's not discouraged, but it's like you don't have too much time left to get these guys there before you get to the point where you're outside looking in potentially for the tournament. We talked about we probably going to see maybe 1, 2, potentially 3 SEC teams make it with a losing conference record, rightfully so with how tough the conference is this year. But you're already 0-2 right now. I mean, at some point, it's going to start hurting your chances for postseason. And, hopefully, Cal can get these guys up to speed, like he said, where he wants them to be. I know he said before the season it's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be, this might not be the most fantastic season, but I feel like you had to think that this team would at least make the tournament this year. And if we don't, that'd be a little eye-opening and shocking for me, at least. So, and I mean, we just talked about it, and we'll go ahead and fast forward here. Conference games and home games. Well, Arkansas has the 14-1, number 8 ranked Florida Gators coming to town after, they came off beating that Tennessee team that you lost by nearly 32. They beat them by 30, and they barely lost to Kentucky on the road. So this is going to be a tough one. I mean, if we could somehow shock them, that'd be great. I mean, and that's like some people said, Arkansas is going to have those high highs. We're having the low lows right now, but I don't know if I'm confident that high high is going to come Saturday, because if you've watched this Florida team play any at all, oh boy, it's going to be a battle. And, you talk about physicality. Their bigs in this one are going to be tough.
Yeah. And I don't know. If you'd have talked to me before Tennessee, I'd feel about the same way I did against them about how I did about Tennessee. I felt like they were going to lose, but maybe 10 points. Obviously with Tennessee, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. But now I have no idea. The thing is, basketball is weird. You can win one game and then lose a game and then by 20, 30 points, and then win by 15 points, and then if you guys meet in the tournament, all of a sudden it's an actual game and you win by 1 in overtime. Stuff. Basketball is just weird like that. It's not necessarily as weird as baseball, because baseball is it's kind of a crapshoot sometimes, but basketball it's a little bit better. The thing is, Arkansas. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas lost by 30 points, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas gave them a game, because that's just the way basketball is. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put much into it. I wouldn't count them out already. I still think Arkansas has the talent to be good. But they just gotta fix a couple of things.
I was about to say that's the thing. There's no question that Arkansas has the talent to come in and be able to compete. It's whether or not these guys can perform at the level that we know they can. And so that's the tough point. I see our buddy Halo Master 96 is back. He's commented on the episode the other night. Said, how many times do I have to tell you Cal is a chump?
Yeah. Hey, how many your losses? How many of them are ranked? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean
the answer is 0. Hey, Georgia might be ranked this month on Monday, but the thing is, I'm not jumping in to USC's comments and talking about it. I just
Yeah.
worry about your team. You have one less loss than we do. I mean, you have a good win against Florida, but it's not like Kentucky's doing amazing. They lost to Clemson at Clemson. So I mean, the Clemson's not bad either. So I'm not giving that, but I mean, Ohio State's not very good. Got destroyed by Ohio State, and then you got destroyed by Georgia. So I don't know, man. You can keep giving us reactions and stuff like that, but I don't know why you're so obsessed with Cal. Doesn't make any sense. Hey, if he loses and he's bad and he nothing on you, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
But look, the thing is, I'm also afraid that you're right. So I really don't want him to be right. But I mean, dang, man. Did you listen to what's his name? John Neighbors today on his Locked On podcast?
I missed that one today.
He went off on him, right? And he was like, you know what? I am terrified that Kentucky fans are right. And I'm a little bit terrified of that too.
Well, and I didn't want to bring it up, but I kind of had that same thought in my mind today is what was the quote I was thinking of? I was like, has Cal lost his edge, And I mean, and I think it's early to say that. I mean, there is a chance that that's right. But I mean, who knows? I mean, he's still able to recruit talent. So it's that development piece and that game management piece, all the other pieces. But don't want to dive too much in that. We'll turn the focus back to Florida. Looking at them coming in, their top players, like we talked about kind of similarly with Ole Miss is, the guys that kind of beat you are their guards, compared to, some other teams where, their bigs beat you a lot. Walter Clayton Jr. plays 31 minutes a game and averages 17 and a half a game. And then right behind him, Elijah Martin, 30.3 minutes a game, averaging 16. So you've got, mid-30s to 40 points a game from your two guards.
Right.
And then, your third guard, Will Richard, 30 minutes a game as well. Also averages 13.4. And then finally you have a big and Alex Condon who gives you 10. I mean, you're looking at 50-ish points between your top five guys right there. Your top four.
Right. Right. And you mean you got a guy who averages 10 points and 8 rebounds. He's almost averaging a double-double, right?
Yeah.
And if Arkansas can't do well and down low, then I don't feel like Arkansas is going to do well. We've been kind of talking about that this whole time. But the thing is, I don't know. The 3 points offense is also pretty good for them. They have they're big, shoot 40% from deep. I don't know how many attempts they take. I don't see that on here, but that's,
I was about to say, they
good.
shoot 47 from the field, 72 from the line, and 34 as a team from the 3-point line.
I feel like if you can stretch Arkansas's defense, I mean, you're just going to destroy them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's like you said, that we could have a turnaround and actually make this a competitive game, or this could just be just as easily just like they did to Tennessee and they win by 30. I mean, either one of those outcomes are possible. The one thing Arkansas has going for us, and it's not even as much of a factor as it used to be, is that it's a home game in Bud Walton. But as you know, Arkansas is getting some winter weather right now. So I don't know how many people are going to be getting out and making their way to Bud Walton Saturday afternoon to watch this team go against number 8 Florida after kind of the first two performances in SEC play that you've seen. That hasn't give you optimism. I'm not going to, if I'm an Arkansas fan and, not being local, but if I've got, tickets, and I'm not making the trek up here to, from Central Arkansas, Northeast Arkansas, make that trip, and not great weather, not great conditions, just to potentially watch you get beat by 30. No, I'm not going to do that. But and that's the thing, I think that's been a question mark this season. I mean, it was a little bit last year towards the end, but it's just weird on how the attendance and turnout's been for games this season. You would think it would have been through the roof with bringing a Hall of Fame coach like Cal in to take over a program that was in a decent spot. Had a bad year last year under Muss, but Muss got us into a great spot over the past few years. Sold out season tickets, packed arenas, and then you're seeing what you're seeing this year. It really makes you scratch your head a little bit. And I mean, he's even called it out. Said, "Hey guys, we need you, coming to these games and, bringing the energy." I mean, if you remember, the energy for a exhibition game against Kansas. Like, we had a packed stadium for that game.
Yeah.
But then regular season games, you have nobody showing up. I get maybe the idea of you're not really playing anybody, or that it's a midweek game at 7, 8 o'clock. Sure. But, it's conference play. Yeah, I get, this game this week was at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Well, here's the thing also, that preseason game, that exhibition game, wasn't season ticket holders.
Right. It's those people that want to go, but it's hard to get your hands on tickets.
Right. And here's the thing is, dude, they got to stop selling out the entire stadium. Like, I know it's great for your Twitter graphic, but it's ridiculous. The atmosphere in there is just slowly gone downhill. And I don't know who's buying the season tickets. I don't know if it's like corporate people who are, just because they have the money and they can buy up a whole bunch of tickets for, their VPs.
I think it's a combination of, like you said, you have corporations that buy out like sections or rows or, whatever it may be. But you also have the older generation season ticket holder that, I've talked to people that they've had season tickets for 20 years and they've just kind of either they have them and then pass them down, or, so-and-so's grandparents still has season tickets and they've had them for 15, 20 years and they don't get to many games, but then they also don't actively try to get people in seats. They try to sell them and for, more than what an average person wants to pay to go to a game. I think it's maybe a combination of those things. And
here's
then
the other thing too. Sorry, but let me put this, because I'll forget this if I don't say it. If, the season ticket holders, they also don't necessarily have the excitement per game because they get to go to every single game, right?
Right.
They have the opportunity to go to every single game. And these people who are getting one-offs and two, they're excited to go to, it doesn't matter who they're playing. It could be Oakland, it could be Lipscomb, it doesn't matter. They have these people who have one game a year that they can afford to go to. They're going to give it their all, right? They're going to be so excited no matter who they're playing. And then you have people who have season ticket holders that, you know what, it's just Oakland, it's just Lipscomb, it's just, Euler. And then they're not super excited to be there because they have the opportunity to go again and again and again. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's a little bit a part of it too, because it was packed against Ole Miss, right? Or, 15,000-ish.
It was one of the better home attendances of the season so far.
Right.
And it's like you said, not saying it's every single season ticket holder, because it's like if I was a season ticket holder, I would be excited to be at every game I could be. Yeah. I think it's maybe you see those people that have had them for, a decent amount of time, and then they're just like, yeah, it's another basketball game. I've been to a bunch, whatever. I get that in a sense. And I want to say, also, I think it could be a lot. You can't take all the blame away from probably some of this is on the athletic department too.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not been as hard of a push, Joe, advertise, push attendance, incentives to go, things like that. Because the one thing that Muss brought compared to Cal as far as a big difference is Muss was his own media. He didn't need the university to help him crank out a lot of content and like excitement and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Cal's, cup of tea, if you will. He's not a guy that's going to be on social media like Muss was, doing all these types of things. That's where I think maybe the athletic department has fell asleep at the wheel a little bit. They got so used to Muss doing a lot of promo stuff and a lot of things like that. Now that he's gone, they've got to get back into being the main cause of excitement, the main reason to get people to the fans. I know they did a jersey giveaway yesterday, but I mean, I got to the game pretty early and they ran out, as soon as the gates opened. If you're going to do something like that, prepare for a larger quantity. Free stuff will get more people in the door than you would think.
Yeah.
And, there's been games where, they probably could have cranked up the attendance if they would do more things like that. And I get that's going to cost the university money. But if you also have people buying tickets on these third-party sites again, and, that's getting people to the games, and more 9 out of 10 times, somebody's going to go get a Coke or a water or a pretzel or nachos or a beer or whatever it may be. You're going to get, even if maybe you're not necessarily making money off that ticket, you're going to make money off people buying food or merch at the game. So,
yeah. And you know what? I think also just the vibe around the entire program, it kind of sucks, right?
Yeah. With just how football has been this year, basketball's not starting out hot.
And it really started with Arkansas baseball, though. Arkansas baseball going in second year in a row, losing in their regional, to a purple team of all things. Like, I don't know what it is about Arkansas playing purple teams in the regional, but they are not good against them. Because you had TCU 2 years ago, and then last year you had K-State. So, or this year and then a year ago. But I feel like that's where it started, really, because Arkansas had the best pitcher in the country, and they just couldn't do anything with it offensively. And then you're like, well, now we got a little bit of excitement with Bob Petrino and Taylor Green, who looks like Matt Jones, but it can throw. And then you have the season that we had, which if you'd have told me that season, if we were going to have that season in August, I'd have said, you know what, it's not a bad season. But we could see how good they were. They just didn't live up to it, Like, they were better than what people predicted on the score. They were better than what they showed on the scoreboard at the same time. So, and then you have basketball, who is better than what they're playing, and this whole thing is about teams that are better than what they perform, how they perform. If that makes sense. We knew Arkansas had the talent, pitching wise, and we knew Arkansas had the talent at bats, but they just couldn't do it. Especially we knew that Arkansas had the talent to put away a couple of those games, say, Texas for one, but they didn't. And now we have last night where Arkansas should have beaten Ole Miss, right? They have the talent to do it. And I don't think we covered it when we were talking about the game, but they had 3 runs in the game, and Arkansas had 1, and then Ole Miss had the following 2. And the difference in the game was the last run of the game. It was a 7-0 run in like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then Arkansas and Ole Miss just traded back shots. And it's just frustrating because Arkansas was the better team, I feel like, last night, and they just couldn't get over themselves. They couldn't get over the hump. And that's the way it's been for Arkansas athletics for 2 years now.
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, and especially with as high expectations, or not expectations, but, as of a high floor that is just how baseball is. Like it's not, I hope we make a regional. Oh, this year's the chance that we get. It's almost a given that Arkansas fans are spoiled that 9 out of 10 times you're going to go to a regional. Probably 7, 8 of those times you're more than likely going to be hosting a regional. But like you said, the past few years, like last year, you have the best pitcher in the country and you get knocked out of your own regional, or this year technically. And then the previous year, I mean, you still have that same pitcher here and he's the same guy. Your rotation's a little bit different, but you ran into a super hot TCU team that, unfortunately got hot at the right time. But, after historically what Arkansas baseball has to have that happen 2 years in a row. And like you said, Arkansas football did better than what was projected this year. A lot of people said, 4, maybe 5 wins if they're lucky. And we got 7 counting the bowl game. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
they
a
were
season
better than that
where,
7 wins.
Right.
Like I feel I think if everyone who's having a real conversation about the talent level that Arkansas had last year, I feel like if we're being honest with ourselves, they had the talent to be better than 7 wins last year or this year. Maybe not up front. Up front on the offensive line,
that's still question marks.
That's still questionable. And that's really one of the reasons why they were so bad the last 2 years, to be honest. But it's just like that every single year for every single sport. I just don't understand.
And that's the thing of being an Arkansas fan. The highs are high, and then those lows get really low.
It's like 2001, man. Can we just go back to 2001, 2002, and really relive that? We have Arkansas go. What were they? 9-4 football, and then you have basketball who went to the Elite Eight, and then you have baseball who went to the College World Series. Like that was a great year. And then now we have 2 back-to-back sucky years.
Yeah.
We still have baseball season to go, but
Steve-O here says Arkansas fans' expectations are always too high. Fair enough.
I wouldn't say that. Well, Arkansas is one of the like if you look at football, Arkansas is historically they're a top 25 team. You look at baseball, they're one of the best teams in the country in the last 25 years. Yeah, top 5 baseball team in the last 25 years. You look at basketball, that hasn't been great, but we have a Hall of Fame coach coaching them right now.
We had a coach to get to that point.
Yeah, we went to back-to-back Elite Eights and then a Sweet 16. The reason why we have the expectations like that is because we've seen this program do well in the past. And I think if we lower our expectations, they're never going to exceed them. And they're never going to exceed those points again. You lower expectations for basketball and baseball, I don't think we're ever going to get a national championship. Football, they probably will never get a national championship. I hope I see one before I die, but I doubt it. But you can't not want that, if that makes sense. Because then what's the point of being a sports fan if you don't have those high expectations? If you don't believe we're going to go and win the national championship on some deep level, that at least hoping that they go and win the national championship, then why do you even follow the sport?
Yeah, national championship.
That's not track. Yeah.
Can't forget about track. They've been the ones holding us down there as far as actually having, a super successful where you can say, oh, we won a national championship here. But like you said, out of those two, like you said, I would hope to, at some point before I die, to see a Arkansas win a football championship. That the likelihood of that is very low.
Yeah.
Basketball, I could see it. We could get there. I want Dave Van Horn to get one before he retires. Like that.
Yeah.
That man deserves one. Razorback Hobbs here says baseball is going to be a lot of fun this year. Best pitching staff in school history and best offensive we had in years. I would like to offensively. Yes, I would love to see that. Pitching staff, I would love to see that, but as a complete staff, I can agree with that. We've had a few great individual pitchers, but this year's rotation, low key, like you said, could be one of the better ones that the Arkansas seen in years. I mean, to be able to put together full rotation. But my big thing is I want to see the bats. I think that's been the thing in the past few years. It's really been what got us knocked out of these regionals was we couldn't get any offense going. We could kind of hold the other team, to a few runs, but even those few runs, was enough because we couldn't get anything going. But
I feel like in the last few years they've just lived and died on the long ball, right?
Yeah,
they don't have any short game. But I really want to see what Hiva Aloy get going to, because the dude, whenever he swings that bat, it's just so much power. It's kind of like Brady.
Sousa.
Yeah, and Sousa. Oh, man, I forgot about Sousa.
They got.
And then Wahiva's
his brother too.
From BYU is, so we got like 3 Hawaiians in Arkansas. It's like a little Hawaii up over there in Fayetteville. It's pretty cool. But he I'm not saying like his game or anything, but the way that he swings the bat, especially when he misses, it reminds me of I wanted to say Brady Tiger, but not Brady Tiger.
Brady Slavens.
Brady Slavens. Because that dude, whenever he would swing so hard, his helmet would start flying around like a cartoon. Like what?
You'd see his helmet like go around here to straighten it up.
Yeah, like if he gets any contact, I think it's gone. Right? If he gets any good contact, it's gone. So
Razorback Hobbs says, just wait until you see Brent Arundel, a transfer coming in. I'm excited. I mean, we'll talk about these guys. We're about to get our baseball content ramped up here in the next few weeks or so with the season kicking off February 14th. So you're just about a month away from Arkansas baseball being here.
That's crazy.
And it's going to be a fun season. I can't wait. Can't wait to get some baseball content going here. But kind of bringing this all full circle. It's been a frustrating past, year and a half, 2 years with the athletic department, with, some of the results you've seen, with the disappointing, the expectations, things like that. At the end of the day, we'll see what happens on Saturday, as Arkansas will be taking on Florida, ranked number 8, 1 loss on the season in Bud Walton. If your season ticket holder out there and you're not going, try to get somebody in the seats. Let's have a good environment for a great, matchup against Florida. Arkansas historically had some great matchups against Florida in the past in basketball. And, I'd love to see a decent turnout, even though, maybe some things will clear up enough for it wouldn't be bad conditions to try and go. But get out there and let's support these guys, and hopefully, they can make the strides needed and make this a close game and, be fun. Quick update here. Arkansas women's basketball got the win over Auburn tonight.
Hey,
Izzy Higginbotham, the transfer from Arkansas State from Batesville, she scored 36 of Arkansas's 59 points tonight.
Dude, I don't even want to get into women's basketball because that's
a topic for another day, huh?
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, like we said, hopefully Arkansas can get some things figured out on the court. Hopefully Cal can get these guys where they need to be before it's too late to potentially make at least a tournament bid and get in the tournament. I think that's, what everybody would like to see in year one. But you got to start winning these home games, and you dropped 1 earlier in this week. You would hope to not drop 2. The odds aren't in your favor, but you never know. Maybe this team can find what they need, or find something that clicks or works, or for something, maybe they can find something where they can get things going Saturday and maybe shock some people. I'd love to see it, but we're going to wrap up here. We thank you, everybody that jumped in tonight. Love all the viewership. We'll be back on Sunday to recap. Would love to be talking about an Arkansas win over number 8 Florida. But we'll see. And if we have any other portal updates or things like that, Arkansas still looking to fill that defensive cornerbacks coach position. So if we hear any coaching hires, we'll update you guys on that. Just stay tuned and locked in. Our Facebook page, Twitter page, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. That way you know when we go live. We thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and we'll get out of here, and we'll see everybody on Sunday for our recap show.